So I want to talk about Darryn Peterson. And this is what Darryn Peterson's doing right now in 26 minutes a game, coming off a hamstring injury and clearly not being 100%, which is absurd. But the primary reason I want to talk about Darryn Peterson is I want to talk about this culture of like pro comps and how lazy and ridiculous they can be, because the number one comparison that I'm seeing for Darryn Peterson right now over and over and over and over again is Anthony Edwards. The number two being Kobe Bryant. And when we talk about these comps, you couldn't find a worse comparison for this player, to the degree where when I see, especially the Anthony Edwards comp, all I think to myself is, have you never watched either of these players play, or do you not understand what's going on the court at a high level? Because again, their style of play and how they generate their offense, how they do generate their defense is completely different. Like when we talk about Anthony Edwards, we are talking about one of the best pure run and jump athletes in the NBA, ever in the NBA. This is a 1% athlete, right? Gets things through dynamics and explosion and strength and playing with force. And he has developed craft and developed into a great shooter, but he is a dynamic athlete first. Darryn Peterson's not. Darryn Peterson's a very good athlete, right? But Darryn Peterson gets his buckets because his style of play is so unique. His level of craft and his handle, his low-hanging cross and like his footwork and getting into his step backs, and everything he does is generated to the idea that you have to over pursue him on the perimeter, because this is one of the best pure shot makers on the perimeter I've seen in college basketball this century. And that's not an overstatement. When this guy gets on the perimeter, you need to over pursue him and trap him to such a degree to protect against that shot making that allows him to get into his bag, and his footwork and everything he does with those crossovers and those drop steps allows him to get to the second and third levels and score and get to the rim, finish with touch and spin with either hand and use his phenomenal length to get what he wants. This is how Darryn Peterson scores, is through dynamic perimeter scoring, forcing teams into a trap of what they're going to allowing him to get further into his bag and making you look silly. This is what makes him so great. And the only other player I've ever seen with his style of balance point and shot making and footwork and the low hang cross and everything else that he does is CJ McCollum. And I know some of you are gonna be like, well, if he's CJ McCollum, then why do people think he's so great? Because CJ McCollum is 6'2" and a below average athlete. This is a 6'5", 7-foot wingspan plus athlete version of CJ McCollum. This is CJ McCollum with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's athletic and physical profile and defensive profile, because this kid's going to be a phenomenal off-ball disruptor in that Shai mold, who's a good on-ball defender. But that's what makes this kid special. He is a 6'5", 7-foot wingspan plus athlete versus CJ McCollum. That's an alien. This is one of the best offensive players I've ever seen.